All right.
Let me hear you.
This is John.
There you
Check.
go.
Testing. 1, 2, 3.
Great.
How's the rolling in my R?
That's good. Tres.
I've been practicing.
It's more of a voiceless tapped R rather than a rolling of your R.
I don't know the specific R's.
That's okay. You have to be a big fucking nerd and go to theater school and learn all about talking to know. So I'm not going to give you shit about it.
You talk well.
I do what I do.
True.
I try not to be too polished. I can't lose my edge.
Yeah.
I can't sound like a newsman from the 40s. Or else what kind of man would I be, right?
He'd be part of the elite's puppet tools for media to lull people into it.
Please.
State.
I would be a lot more hireable if I talked like this, though. I'll tell you what. I don't know. I try to keep I'm from the city, man. From the city, boy. From El Barrio way, all right? Gotta keep it real. Can't lose too much to the institutions. You know what I'm saying? Then who are you? Right?
A consumer.
Well, yeah, what's up? Hello. We out here. We're back. How's it going? How are you, John?
Pretty good. I mean, it's great, Started working at this Christmas bar, pop-up Christmas bar.
Yeah.
And it's only open for the month of December, but it's crazy the people that come in there. Half the time I don't know who works there and who's a guest because people are dressed up in full Christmas costume garb with elf ears, plastic elf ears and everything.
What do you wear?
Well, I'm supposed to wear a Christmas sweater. The one that I got was a beer brand theme, one of the big beer brand themes.
Yeah.
Christmas sweater, acrylic Christmas sweater, but for the most part I just wear black pants and a black shirt because once it gets packed in the bar, it gets really hot, and acrylic sweaters are just not the best uniform.
Oh yeah, God no, Jesus. For sure. There was a bar crawl this weekend, right?
Oh, yeah.
Did you?
I worked that.
Did it get nuts?
It wasn't as nuts as previous years, from what I heard. I've heard that they've had 20 to 30,000 people do it at some years.
Oh my
God! It gets huge. It's one of the biggest pub crawls I think that they do, and it's where everybody's dressed up in pajamas or Santa Claus
onesies.
Outfits. Yeah, onesies.
They come in from the burbs.
Yeah.
And it's St. Patrick's Day level debauchery in Wrigleyville. Yeah. It's I was walking around there and I saw people fighting. I saw a guy with a bloody nose and a woman was like, I don't give a fuck. I'll do it again. And of course, people barfing in the street and shit like that.
And this is 10:30.
Yeah, no, this is early in the morning. Chicago drinking culture can be very aggressive, and the sense of urgency is high. If you're ever here during St. Patrick's Day or Cubs games or Pride, it's wild. It gets wild.
Have you ever been to a costume party or something? When you go to one of these themed pub crawls, you have tens of thousands of people attending it. So the stakes get high, and people really go all out with some of their costumes. I saw this one group of guys. They had the only thing I really remember is they had these Guy Fawkes masks that were just they were just black, satin black or whatever, or they had a shine to them or whatever. And they had this electric wire, neon wire that would light up blue or yellow or green or whatever, and they took that and they sewed it into the mask, so they'd sew X's over the mouth and a stars over the eyes, and they sewed it into the mask to where it looked really good. And that's all I really remember from their costume. But they had a whole group together, all wearing the same mask, all wearing similar black
This was
costumes.
the Christmas bar crawl where
I don't really know what it has to do with. Maybe they made it for Halloween. They're just trying to get as many uses as they can.
Yeah.
It was fun. I mean, it filled up in there. The music was playing all day, and it was nice to be able to work to some loud music and everything, and everybody's just like partying from 10 in the morning to like 2 at night. And like I remember I was just like walking around the bar, and in the dance floor there's this dude, and we had like these probably like 5-foot statues of nutcrackers, and they're not very heavy, but they are kind of heavy, but like he picked one up, and he's like like holding it like a figure skater would like hold up his partner, and he's just like bouncing it up and down in the crowd. And I look at him, I make eye contact with him, and I just shake my head. I'm like, nah, dude. And he puts it down, and like he's like real sorry. And like we put it back over where it is.
Yes, sir.
And like I just walked away because like I get it. I don't want to ruin his good time. He's having a good time. He didn't hurt anybody, but he could have. Like he's in the crowd. Like if he would have slipped or whatever, like he would have dropped out on somebody's head. That would have been bad. But like you just got to be careful.
Sure.
When you're drinking.
Yeah. I at work, there's like this weekends or there's been the the Christmas playlist. You just like throw Christmas pop on the Pandora at work, and it just like feels like I'm working in a fucking outlet mall.
I never knew how many versions of Last Christmas I Gave You My Heart there was.
Jesus,
there's so many versions of all these songs.
I mean, those are I like the more contemporary ones, honestly, because I'm just so tired of the crooner. I'm dreaming of. Oh my god!
Did I tell you about?
It's too much, and like I was just like looking for the opportunity to throw on the hip hop R&B Christmas, because that station is way superior. Like it's just like more fun, and it's got more soul, and it's typically like the contemporary it's a little more contemporary, and like the contemporary pop Christmas shit all sounds like it was written for a Macy's commercial, and I was just waiting for that point, but the owner was at the restaurant and is just like really digging on this shitty old, I mean, he's the epitome of okay boomer. But we were just like talking shit the whole morning at brunch, just be like, this Christmas playlist just told me to use another water fountain. This Christmas playlist just told me to come through the back of the mall to visit Santa. This Christmas playlist has a secret family. Shit.
They get pretty they're pretty old, and there's some pretty weird ideas going on.
I mean, it's just like they're relics of a time where I'm first generation. I'm not,
it's
I'm
cold
not,
outside.
Yeah, and like, oh my god, the whole debate over that. I get it. Listen to it or don't. Everybody's gonna get something different from that stupid song. Also, it's 100 years old. Just put it to bed. It's fine.
Yeah,
it's fine. We shouldn't be married to any of these things. Just put it to bed. Rewrite the lyrics. I don't care. Make it about something else. Whatever.
It actually is kind of a nice song if you think of it in a way where they're both like willing participants, and she's just being well, it's also from a time where women didn't have the like society didn't allow them to have the agency to express interest. So maybe it was during a time where she's just being coy, so it could be shocking.
And now when we are we have awareness around ideas like consent and stuff, it's perceived through today's lens. But if it's an old ass song where back in the day it could be like, oh, she's just being coy because women weren't empowered to have ownership over their sexuality. Like, well, maybe it's just an old ass song. We should put it to bed.
That kind of makes sense. Like for where like you have somebody like Bill Cosby who like they'd make jokes about like slipping somebody a Mickey.
Oh, Spanish Fly. Yeah.
And
yep.
I don't know how. What era he was doing this, but like back when, like what you're saying,
60s where he was making Spanish Fly jokes.
Yeah. Do you think women had like more freedom to express their interest in the 60s? Because somewhere where like it's like the culture to not express any interest for the woman, then like it would just like how would you know if she was really not wanting to go with this guy and he was like taking her?
Well, I mean, it depends. Force. Well, that's also like a societal divide of the 60s. Not everybody was in on the Summer of Love and the sexual revolution. Right. You know, not everybody was in on that. And people were, you know, as conservative, if not more, you know, on the flip side of that. But also, like, rape culture was a lot more pronounced and dominant in the 60s than it is today. I mean, so it's hard to say.
Especially with all that drug use. Like, I'm sure, like, whenever you have, like, anything, you're gonna have whenever you have anything with a bunch of people, there's gonna be, you know, douchebags that are going to take advantage of that system. Sure. So like when you have a bunch of drugs with a bunch of people where there's a bunch of sex going on, there's gonna be guys, or probably most likely guys, that are going to like slip people drugs that are going to like then take advantage of the situations.
Yeah. Well, I've read
or
a couple.
First, you have a beautiful thing that's like.
I've read. I'm very interested in what the fuck happened after the 60s and why did we remain regressive as a society when we had this hippie revolution in the 60s. Mm-hmm. Like how was it that we went back to it? And part of it, I think, is that
all the murder that happened in the 70s,
reckless
serial killers and everything,
reckless
Charles Manson.
Reckless, like just the sexual freedom without bounds, or like a language.
And then the AIDS epidemic.
Well, that was later. No, I'm just saying like 60 specifically. After, hold on, no, I know, but well, let me finish. Like in the 60s, you know, it's the free love and everything, but like what happens after free love? You know, like I imagine that people's hearts were fucking broken and shit.
A lot of
people
kids
were experimenting without. I mean, this was like all relatively new. It was coming out of the 50s, you know, like it's all relatively new.
Rebellion from like,
and like, you know, with all the drugs and the sex and without a language around like give and take and just like equitable relationships and balance and consent and stuff like that. I'm sure it fucked a lot of people up and made them more conservative. And that's part of the reason why like the revolution didn't really stick in the 60s. The other part was that all of the leaders of the revolution were assassinated. And everybody was like, okay, we get it. If we actually try to change shit, you'll literally fucking murder us.
And then there's scapegoats. Like the other side just used scapegoats. Like they had like Timothy Leary, who like kind of made an ass out of like the whole, you know, researching LSD, like, because he kind of was like, he would just like dose people. He didn't really do his research like by scientific standards
or with consent.
Yeah. And like, whereas, you know, you had other people that did, like Timothy Leary, or not Timothy Leary, but Terrence McKenna. I think he's like more of a like actually did kind of scientific procedures like in his studies and stuff. And he was,
it was all pretty fucking reckless, you know, all of that.
Like, you know, with somebody like Charles Manson, like you have somebody you can point the finger, like this is what this leads to. Yeah. When you have like this recklessness where nobody has any morals, nobody's following Jesus, nobody's, you know, reading the good book anymore or whatever. Like I don't know. I think there was a bunch of things that they could point out in like the 70s and then AIDS in the 80s, like the epidemic. Like I don't know if you would connect that back to, because it takes like 10 years or so for AIDS to take effect, right?
Wait, what do you mean? Like, what is your connection of the
I'm saying like the revolution, you know, the sexual promiscuity
and
the drug use and the shared needles, all that stuff like that went on in the 60s. Yeah. You know, could have like sparked like a bunch of, you know, HIV
outbreaks
and everything.
Well, it's also the resistance
years
to
later
the leftover like regressiveness of the people who went back after the 60s, calling the shots in the 80s and saying, we're pretty much just going to ignore the AIDS epidemic. We're going to leave people to die. We're not going to do needle programs. We're not going to do education. We're going to demonize the gay community. We're going to demonize drug users in inner cities. We're going to make drug use synonymous with being black or being poor. And it's just demonizing groups and letting them die, instead of looking at what could be done to save it. Like in Indiana, when Mike Pence was the governor of Indiana, he let an AIDS epidemic go because he shut down a needle program. So now people are sharing more needles. On top of that, when you defund like sex education, and you defund Planned Parenthood, now people don't have the resources to have safe sex, and like all of this creates a fucking epidemic where if you're a shitty conservative, you can turn around and see, look at what their lifestyles are doing to them.
Yeah, that's the power of argument. Like all those things, like where you're talking about shutting down the needle exchange, whatever the fuck, and shutting down like Planned Parenthood and sex education and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's easy to argue against those things to a certain crowd, especially if that crowd is the majority of this area, and like it just leads to more things, like where you're saying after you do take away those things and things get a lot worse for that community, now you can point fingers and say, see, I was right, look at this community, or whatever, like it,
right.
It's just insanity.
That's their play with everything too. Like Republicans will destroy a social program and then turn around and say like, oh, see, this doesn't work, we got to shut it down and privatize it. But I was gonna say, like, we in like popular culture, we like deify Woodstock. It's this amazing like point in American culture, and like, not to say that it wasn't, but at the same time, people fucking died at Woodstock. People died at Woodstock.
Yeah.
People died at Woodstock.
People die at EDC. Like people like, I think that's when you're gonna go to a massive party like Burning Man or something. Like, do people die? People probably die at Burning Man. I haven't looked into it, but
well, I mean, it's also like
they're in the desert.
Yeah.
You have to bring water. If you don't bring enough water,
there's no like toilets at Woodstock, or like there was a food shortage. People. It was just like a goddamn. It was like Fire Festival.
Yeah. Well, no, it wasn't like Fire Festival.
I mean, in certain way. Well, okay.
Fire Festival's a big con, and Burning Man is a beautiful cacophony society idea.
No, people got left behind, man. That's the thing.
In Burning Man?
No, at Woodstock. Woodstock. People got left behind, and there's a certain part of just like the recklessness of the 60s. I wonder if it comes from, I don't know. Maybe it comes from just like an invincibility post World War II of like, we can do whatever we want. We're the winners. The economy's great. If you were 18 or in your early 20s in the 60s, like, you had a much better shot at the economy. You had less to worry about. You probably worked in or knew or had somebody in the family that worked in a union job. You got paid good wages and shit like that. School was almost free. It was free in California. Yeah, I wonder. I don't know.
Well, how could it be free now then? Like in like a world with so much advanced like technologies and new, like how could we afford to have free college now?
With, I know.
All of our advances.
Might as well never have it.
Maybe back in the day it was easier.
I mean, it's a profit motive.
I mean,
part of the reason we're spending so much is that we got to pay for executive bonuses and shit like that, and football stadiums,
like Space Force, like
and Space Force, yeah. The revolution of love.
Aliens are coming.
They did it wrong.
Eventually,
we got to work
on a long enough timeline. Aliens are going to attack us.
Yeah, that's why by the time they get here, we need to get, again, everybody together.
We need a Death Star.
We need to marry each other. Everybody in America, we marry each other.
Free love and monogamy.
Free love.
Or
polygamy, polyamory. And you know what? Our relationship to our fellow 300 million Americans, it can be whatever we want it to be. Mm-hmm.
It could be a very, very close friendship.
It could be a close friendship.
Close appreciation.
It could be distant. It's fine. As long as we're on paper. Distant. On paper, we're married. And we're willing to get together to fight the aliens and build our own people star.
Beautiful society.
Yeah. And then we'll steal the alien technology and use it so we never have to work anymore. I'm tired of working. It's 2020. I want to work like 10, 15 hours a week and spend the rest of it just like making art.
I think it is important to do something, like to have like hours dedicated to something you don't really want to do. Like in hunter-gatherer time, it would be finding food or like something that would be productive for society, but something that you don't want to do, like just to break up your day. Because like if you have too much of your own, like I think for most people maybe, or at least for some people, like if you have so much time on your hands and like no responsibilities, it's very easy to fall into like just not doing anything.
I mean, people will want to work as long as there's work to be done, though, you know, and people want to work for their community. That's in our nature. I think I will. I would be happy to wait tables 15 hours a week while, you know, like that's what they were dreaming of in the 20s, man. They were looking at how they were squeezing all of this wealth and heightened productivity out of the same amount of hours, and they were like, oh, productivity is going up and up and up and up and up and up. By the time it's the year 2000, we're going to be making more money working less hours, and that just didn't happen. Well, and now that things
did for a small group, smaller group of people, that are just finding ways to like squeeze out as much currency as they can out of our group, just to where we can still like function to where they want,
and they can make their money make more money. That's the thing about inequality, you know. It just makes itself worse because now it's compounding, you know. If you own properties and you're making passive income in your sleep through rent, you know, or if you have enough money to get rich from the stock market, then that just compounds and compounds and compounds, you know. Like you and me could buy some shit in the stock market and it
could just sit there.
It could just sit there, or it could just like that's a little more of a gamble for us.
For us, like to really make money on the stock market, it takes to like investing. Like if you don't know like some insider shit or whatever, like even if you did, like you have to buy stock. A lot of times, the stock that are going to go up a lot or down are going to cost like for you to buy enough of them to really profit off them. It's going to cost you a lot of money.
Yeah,
like. I don't know. Like when I was checking out a couple of years ago, Netflix was going up and down. Like there's this website called Investopedia, and it's got like a stock simulator investing where it gives you like $1 million to invest, like a fake money into real stock, and like you just play around, see how you do. And like I remember like buying like a shit like $500,000 worth of like Netflix stock, and then like I made like $50,000 in a day or something. But like, yeah, that's a lot of money. But like, look how much I had to invest. I mean, that for Netflix would already be a big stock where it would be expensive. Like the way to make money, I guess, would be to invest in like earlier stocks that aren't as expensive that are gonna blow up, or like I mean, I guess I don't know much about short trade or day trading or all that other stuff where like. You're like borrowing shares from somebody and like you're expecting it to go down, and like somehow you give the share back to that person when it's weird.
I mean, it's kind of on purpose too, you know, like you have to study that shit to be able to work it. And then like if you do it professionally, you're literally probably a fucking crazy person who just stares at a screen and makes calls for 50 hours a day. You're making multiple coffee trips and have a coke habit, and you're
talking people out of their life savings so that you can have like, you know, your commission off of it. Like, that's what, like, am I too far away? Yeah. Well, I mean, like. It's all gambling too. It's so shitty that like we like our retirements are tied up in the stock market. It's like, you know, people in our homes, you know, the fact that these are commodified instead of just guaranteed in a developed society is really strange. Why like don't it's they just tied hook them up to the quantum computers that they just invented, and like not leave it up to human error anymore or whatever, like people to pick and choose like what to buy, what to sell.
What do you mean? Like the quantum computer a quantum computer that predicts the stock market?
Yeah.
I don't know. That's kind of tough because like computers rely on who programs them. You know, it's not just
not necessarily like you write an algorithm that that like you tell it like this is the problem I want you to figure out, like, and like a lot of times we don't know how the stuff figures out what we want it to figure out.
Right.
Like it just does. And because like I don't know, I guess it's just
what's the problem though if you want it to figure it out? Like if you are if you work for IBM or you work for Goldman Sachs, if you work in tech or you work in the stock market industry or on Wall Street, the way you ask a computer a question is going to be different the way that you or me would ask the question. You know, you and me are way towards the bottom of the ladder. You know what I'm saying? So like you could those guys are going to feed a certain kind of question into the computer to figure out than we would. But we have more to lose from the answer maybe being off, you know?
Well, I'm not even talking about like me or you using a quantum computer.
I mean, I'm really like us in place of like the class. You know, this is all about who runs the technology. Like, is it going to be the owner class and executives that feeds a question into the computer? And if so, then that computer is going to figure out the most efficient way to preserve them, and it's going to see us as a smaller variable in that computation. You know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah, I don't know. Maybe.
I think that's...
They already have like algorithms on regular computers to help buy and sell stock faster than a human could make the decision.
Yeah, but who benefits from that? Like we would need to find
like, it's connected to our economy. So like the better this, like the stocks are, then like our economy will.
It's not
theoretically be better.
Necessary. That's like one part of judging what the economy is or looks like, or if it's good or not. You know, because like our stock market is doing well. But we know from history that it could just be a bubble. We know from history that it could just be fake.
Couldn't that be because of like human error of like making poor buying decisions and making like?
Well,
if we want to look at is if you could hook it up to like the benefit of a quantum computer is that it can like see all the nuance between yes and no, like where a regular computer like has like either. It works in bits, so it's like something's either on or off. It's a 1 or a 0.
Right.
In quantum computers, it can be on or off, or it can be on and off.
Right.
So it's like the superposition between. It's like every bit is a spectrum, or it's called a qubit.
But we're gonna ask what the like the system's already a machine. It's already working on an algorithm, and the algorithm that it's fed is expand to make as much money as possible right now, right? So that let's say like this is just like where we're starting from. Expand, right? Mm-hmm. And what does that look like? So it looks like subprime mortgages being traded over and over again, being enveloped into other subprime mortgages. So you're saying, and so what they did is that they are inflating their market value by just trading shitty mortgages over and over again. Well, since you know that's like the foundation of a huge chunk of our middle class, like we don't guarantee housing. Housing is something that you have to borrow from the bank for a while until you pay it off, right? Mm-hmm. So a huge chunk of our economy, the working class, like depends on that working well. But if these guys are just trading, they're pushing shitty stock or shitty mortgages on people who they know they don't need a supercomputer to tell them that, oh, this family's not going to be able to pay this mortgage back. But they're going to try to sell it anyway because that's guaranteed income. That's debt for them, right? So they're they're inflating their own shit like that, right? So it's growing and growing and growing the economy, but it's a house of cards. Same thing is happening when like like right now we like the stock market's doing great, but a lot of it also has to do with the fact that corporations are buying. They're doing stock buybacks. They're like buying stocks from themselves and trading stocks within themselves over and over again to inflate their market value. But it's like,
so you're saying hooking it up to a computer wouldn't necessarily make it more morally?
No,
right?
It depends on who owns the computer, who programs the computer. You know, is it going to be the executives, or is it going to be people in the working class?
That's a good point. Like it sounds like the similar argument that I have with who's going to, like, if we're going to take all the money away from the billionaires, who's going to take all the money away?
Right.
Who's going to decide like what to do with that money? How do we know that person's going to not like go crazy with power and then like put us all in chains or whatever the fuck, you know?
Which in my mind, that's why like we need as much democracy as possible, because if we, like, in my mind, ideally, direct democracy is the most effective way to do this, to organize a government that is accountable to us. I mean, and then we can, in theory, trust the government to do shit because it's accountable to us on a pretty regular basis. It's like we could vote on our phones for a 2-week period, but also you get a day, or no, fuck that, paper ballots, but you get 2 weeks. You can mail it in, or you can show up at a ballot box anywhere in your municipality for 2 weeks, and you also get a holiday. In Australia, they fine you if you don't vote, which I think is kind of interesting. I mean, it's not the strongest, like, that I think is more interesting, but like 2 week idea. 2 week voting period, mail-in ballots. A holiday for voting. We get rid of the Senate. We get rid of the Electoral College, and maybe turn the House. We should get money out of politics and gerrymandering, like districting, like mapping districts. I think actually could be done by a computer in a egalitarian, fair way. I would be for that, but again, who's programming it, right? So like, would the districting program be run by an elected board of like 5 people, right? Every 5 or 10 years, we do the districts over every 10 years when we do the census. So like, I would be for that, because right now we have a system where like whoever's in power can just hire a company to district the maps for them, and then they submit it, and they can be all fucked up voting districts. They could be squiggled around and look like spirals or fractals. And what it does is it optimizes. They are able to choose their voters rather than the voters choosing them. They are able to curve a voting district in a way that they can guarantee a win and a majority that's disproportional to what people are actually voting like out there. Yeah. But like having a democratically owned quantum computer doing the districts, I mean, like even every 2 years.
You need a quantum computer to do that.
No, you don't. There's already existing programs that can do that. I mean, do it every 2 years. Why not? It's 2020. Like, democracy should be supercharged and easy. You know
what you could do? Like somebody who has a powerful computer at like Caltech or some fancy college somewhere, you could do like a study of like just changing districts. Like maybe you can like program an algorithm to like change the districts in like one community and see all the outcomes like that community might vote based on like the new voting district lines that you draw or whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And just to show like this is what this does. Like this is what you can do if like all you do is you have the power to control the voting districts. Like this is why this shouldn't be left up to certain people, because like all I have to do is draw this line like this, and I can like basically guarantee the way that these votes are going to come out.
Yeah.
Like I think it would be pretty eye-opening for some people.
Yeah, there's a couple of like computer engineers have written you know, like fair districting software, and it looks good, and it looks like proportional. You know, it's instead of like cutting up a district by neighborhood or whatever, you're looking at population density. You know, how many people are in a square mile or whatever.
Right. Not like how many of these people are registered as like
Republicans or Democrats. How many people are? So it's legal.
How many are independent voters, which would probably be a huge. Like if you know who's voting independently, that's basically okay. Their vote doesn't matter. So like I'm going to include them with this.
And the like the intersectional angle here is like it's legal to create districts based off of voter affiliation, but it's not legal to do it based on race. Well, that's like the same thing if you look at the two parties. You know, like
you can like it's like you if you had to fire somebody, like if you were racist and you wanted to fire this guy because of his race, like you could just say, well, you're sleeping on the job, or like maybe not that specifically, but you could say for other reasons or whatever. Like you can make up. Or like that, the law like that, you're not allowed to fire somebody based on that. Like it is helpful, it's a good law, but like it's not like it's impossible to get around that, you know? Like,
I mean, you could sue, but you have to find like. But you're right. Like there's little recourse.
There's ways that you can get around something like that,
especially in like, you know,
because like as long as you don't specifically say to like anything, then what evidence can somebody have that it was specifically about that?
And some places like we don't have LGBT protections in the workplace either. So like you definitely could be hired or not hired if you're gay or if you're trans, and it does happen, you know. And it's one thing. Like, I get the libertarian viewpoint where it's like, oh, well, you shouldn't tell business owners what to do. Well, and I get that, but in the city, like in the city, it's one thing like, oh, you could just go get another job. But if you're in, you know, if you're
like rural
Kentucky. if you're gay and you're in rural Kentucky,
I'm sorry,
it's going to be much harder for you to live. You know, you now become an oppressed person because you can't find employment just for who you are, you know, like,
or you have to repress yourself just to find that employment.
Yeah, and that's oppressive as fuck, you know. That's are you free if you're doing that shit? No. You know,
live your best life.
Live your best life. Not everybody can move to the city, you know, and not everybody should have to.
Some people can move to the forest, build yourself a cabin.
Hey, you know, some people rent and can't afford to do that, you know. Some people like should just be able to live their life wherever they're at. Especially like if you want to stay from where you're from, you should be able to do that. So we did have a story that we wanted to share, and it kind of ties into the question of like who is going to run the supercomputers in the future. So this is from Fast Company. The article's from October 13th, 2016. Oh, this isn't even a fucking recent article.
Really?
Boo! Damn. What? Yeah, no.
Well, we had another article too.
Do you want to do the Facebook one? The Facebook fake news shit?
Let's do that one.
Facebook's senior leadership is increasingly divided over how to address criticism of the company's effect on U.S. politics, with board member and billionaire investor Peter Thiel serving as an influential voice advising Mark Zuckerberg not to bow to public pressure. So Peter Thiel, he's a fucking super rich guy investor, bad guy. Most popularly known, there's a incredible documentary about this on Netflix, but I'll give you the little pitch on it.
Rundown.
Gawker Media leaks Hulk Hogan's sex tape, right? And Hulk Hogan sues Gawker Media. Gawker Media is just like a news news blog company that Gawker itself was just like pop culture and celeb news and stuff, but they also run Gawker and Lifehacker and Kotaku. Hulk Hogan sues them. Then it comes out that Peter Thiel is bankrolling his lawsuit. Oh, why is Peter Thiel trying to destroy Gawker Media? Gawker leaked. They outed Peter Thiel as gay years before that. So Peter Thiel bankrolls Hulk Hogan's lawsuit, and they sue Gawker out of existence. They bankrupts the fucking media platform.
Damn.
A billionaire sued a newspaper on the internet out of existence.
Talk about freedom of speech.
Talk about freedom of speech, right? These motherfuckers don't care about freedom of speech. They don't care about the press, okay? The ethics of outing someone and the ethics of leaking a sex tape and whether it's journalism or not, that's a fair argument to have. But no one person should have the power to sue a news organization out of existence, especially independent media.
That's it's like working around constitutional rights.
Yeah,
it shouldn't be allowed.
Right.
And now with this other article that you were going to bring up with the Google firing.
Yeah. So.
Google is activism.
Google is union busting. They're trying to stop people from organizing in the workplace in Google, which is a legal thing to do, folks. But so here's from the Wall Street Journal. Peter Thiel has argued that Facebook should stick to its controversial decision announced in September to continue accepting political advertisements and to not fact check those from politicians. However, some directors and executives are pushing for changes to the policy, including possibly banning political ads altogether. That's what Twitter did. Twitter you can't pay for ads for a political campaign, right? Which is doing something. If it's doing something to curb propaganda, and also Facebook allowed a group of Holocaust deniers to run ads about Holocaust denial shit. Holy shit.
There's two sides to freedom of speech. There's what you're fighting for, and then there's stuff you don't agree with people saying, but they should still have, the freedom to say stuff.
Well, the issue with... So, two issues.
I don't believe that, seeing some of their ads are going to turn sway my opinion,
You don't, but people do. A lot of it just has to do with seeing things repetitively.
People need
it's not about just
responsibility for themselves.
It's not, but
and their
people
ideas.
We're addicted. These things are purposefully addicting, and
let's not make excuses for them, though. Everybody, man up. Or woman up.
We're like we've talked about before. We're running on a scarcity mindset. We're on our phones for escape, and people don't know what they believe in all the time. People are, especially if that's fine, but you're more susceptible to bullshit if you. Well, I mean, if you're in a scarcity mindset, if you already don't have strong convictions, I feel like people are more. Those are the kind of people who go and join cults. At the end of the day, and I I was on 4chan when I was a young teenager. I'll admit it. And I know what echo chamber like that, if you fall into it, I know what it could do to your perspective, you know? I know that if you...
Look at the insult.
If you practice... this ties into it. If you practice ironic cruelty and ironic racism and like saying the N-word like they do on 4chan, even back in the day, like saying it like it's a normal, fun, hilarious, edgy thing in an echo chamber like that, like especially if you don't have friends in the real world, or if you're not properly employed, or if you're just a nerdy kid, if you're in that echo chamber like that ironic practice turns real. And now 4chan's a full-blown like that community is a full-blown fucking right-wing fascist, like alt-right, people sharing Nazi memes and shit like that. I mean, 4chan's not a good place.
It's a beautiful idea.
I mean, in theory, yeah. If there's no rules, but like people take advantage of that. Like,
you know what the 4chan community accomplished?
Like, Catterday, Rickroll.
With I'm pretty sure it was 4chan community. Like with Louis Stevens. You remember Even Stevens? Who's that actor? Shia LaBeouf. Like when he was doing his performance arts, he did the one where he had like planted a flag in like this hill, and on the flag it said, "He will not divide us." And then it just pointed a live feed camera up.
And they found out where he was.
They found out where it was just by looking at the plane in less than like a day.
Yeah, a bunch of nerds who are using their...
That's amazing.
Yeah, but they're using their power to like troll for the lulz in real life.
They're doing performance art against his performance art. It was a beautiful.
I mean, okay,
2 days.
I mean, whatever. Like,
you're gonna hate on artists.
Good.
This guy hates art.
Yeah, good for them. They're anti-solidarity artists. Wow. Shia LaBeouf is doing a display of solidarity.
It wasn't about his. It was about like just
fucking with him.
To
Shia LaBeouf. That like I'll here's my hot take. That kind of troll for the lulz, South Park edginess is shitty. It makes people bullies. It diffuses people. It makes people nihilistic and makes them think that the world is not capable of changing. So you might as well just fuck with people who have the hopes to do it, and it's not productive.
Disagree. I don't think it's all that. I think maybe
from 4chan
for some people it can become that, but I think that some people like I can believe in something and still joke about it, like. And like joke about how ridiculous it is.
The 4chan level is like obsessive. It's like an identity level of being an asshole. Like, but what I'm saying?
To deny them is like gonna be to deny me like my like free choice to like shit on something that I also like.
I mean that you funny. Also like it like is one thing, and then you have an ownership over that thing that
or
you're
even
connected
shit on
to.
Something I don't like.
There's I feel like South Park has done us a disservice.
Oh, I love South Park.
I will. South Park is hilarious, but there are things like Man Bear Pig, like the Al Gore thing.
They're just hilarious. That is
so funny, but it's also
they just did full circle on
but
that.
People are not serious about, perhaps justifiably, people don't care about politics. Fine. Hold on. Fine. But like that's not good propaganda. Like everything is propaganda. Everything is trying to convince you to do something. And that kind of shit is very cynical and diffusing for a thing that's very serious. And like, imagine if they had used their platform to try to get us to save the planet, right? But like, yeah, some people get their politics and their viewpoint from TV and movies, and that's okay. People have South Park tattoos and like, I remember everyone was doing the Cartman impressions forever. Fine. But yes, it's fun. It's a funny show, but like some things are like, when you have a platform that size, you need to think about the responsibility you have.
I think that they make fun of like everybody else in society, like for not voting or not taking stuff seriously. Like all the characters like in their show are a reflection of what like they're saying the rest of like Americans are, and they're making fun of us for like our, not going and voting. Like the whole Man Bear Pig thing. Like the most recent episode with Man Bear Pig shows that Man Bear Pig really does exist. Man Bear Pig is supposed to be climate change.
It's too late, man. The damage is done. How many years were there between these two Al Gore episodes? We have a very serious window of action, and we already have like that people don't believe in change or that they could do anything. I
don't think it's South Park's like when is it their responsibility for like everybody else like for them to set the standard?
It's part of I
think they did the opposite. Like they've always tried to be the most bullshit joking, like never give a fuck. Like why would you ever take them
because people don't. That's how people see the world, is through TV and movies. That's where we're at in America. You have a responsibility. But you have a responsibility when you have a platform. You do. You can't just rise to the point in a career where you have a huge platform and say like, I don't have a responsibility to this, because you can degrade society.
The authenticity of it, because
those guys are millionaires. I know, but those guys are not saying anything super edgy anymore.
So now, like all the actors, everybody who makes a TV show, everybody who's involved with entertainment, once your show gets successful, I want to hear your opinion, like your political opinion. I don't want it to be about the show no more. I want it to be about what you think I should do. Nobody wants to hear like what Tom Cruise thinks I should do, or whatever the fuck,
the art is in,
and what the fuck art do they know? They make an animated show about kids that curse.
It's not even their fault necessarily. I'm not even blaming it on them necessarily. It may just be a problem with like.
It's satire.
It's satire, but it's not like always good satire. If you miss the mark doing satire, and if people react to it, then they internalize whatever it is that you're telling them. And if you're telling them to laugh at Al Gore,
they have no control over other people, like their viewers.
But if you're an artist, yes, that's bullshit. If you're an artist, yes, you do.
Everybody has to take responsibility for their own decisions and everything. Whatever they are making as art. Like if you're somebody and you're like, oh, I did this because South Park, fuck you, like you are stupid.
Yeah, no, but if you have a decision for yourself. Dude, we are not taught to think critically. I'm telling you.
I agree.
People get their culture and their point of view from TV and movies, or just like this is one of those things where people.
I don't think it's about about the movies and TV shows. I think it probably has more to do with like the parents raising them, or like the lack of parents raising them, or whatever,
But all of this is like, these are all systemic issues. Like a lot of it stems from resources and education, and like if you are in a scarcity mindset and you have a family, you're probably more likely to be short-tempered and hit your kids or do this or do that ends up fucking them up in the long term. You're sending them to schools where there's 30 kids in a classroom. Nobody knows how to critically think, because we're living in we're just trying to get by. So what they want is they put a little money aside for their cable package or whatever, and they watch a TV show on their off time, the little that they have. They're not thinking critically. They're not thinking about the best way to look at the world. They're just watching TV, and that's how people take in the world through that. And if you're an artist, the whole point of getting better and crafting something is this is going to represent something in people's minds. No matter if you're doing a silent, weird play or you're doing a TV show, everything that goes into that, all the words, all the design, all the symbols, the characters, all of that creates something that is an argument. You're always communicating, and you're always you're always engaging to make people look at things in a certain way, and you are responsible for all of it. You're responsible for, if you're the showrunner, you're the responsible for the whole thing. If you're an actor, you're responsible for what your eyebrows do when you're reading something on camera, you know?
I don't know, I kind of disagree. I think
I'm telling you, man, you're responsible for your art. And if people get something different than what you wanted to specifically, then
I think a lot of artists would agree with me. I think that once you like you make your art, and once you propose it to the world and you show it to the world, like, it takes on its own, and like anybody can, like, part of art is like anybody can look at this and they can see something, like they're going to see something, it's going to relate to them.
Yeah.
And like they're not always going to see the same thing that you saw in it when you were making it. And like, that doesn't make you or them wrong. Like, so part of the whole thing about, like, you know, art is that it's a collaborative thing, like what is it, like, to explain what it is and everything. And so, like, I don't think, like, I'm responsible for other people's thoughts, like, or what they, like, I can make something that can totally set somebody else off in, like, some direction that I had no intentions of, and that is not my responsibility. Like, that is the way I feel.
If you are on a huge platform and you're supposed to be really good, then I would say, yeah,
I think that is,
you have to, like, you have to think about what your art does for the people who are taking it in. And if millions of people are taking it in, then you have a rare chance. You're in a small minority of artists that can really change the culture of a society. I think
it takes away from the authenticity of what you're making.
I mean,
when you start to direct
if those guys are authentic, fine. I think this might be more of an issue of Comedy Central and Viacom and all these big companies not giving a diverse amount of voices when we really needed it. You know what I'm saying? Like, when we had Jon Stewart on The Daily Show, he was almost an island doing the kind of work that he was doing, you know? He was specifically adversarial to the Bush administration in a way that journalism at large should have done. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But overall, there's an idea of, like, we can do something here, you know, like, you know, we're laughing and we're exposing truth through this comedy, but there's also, at the end of the day, like, we can do something about this. Whereas my issue with a lot of South Park is that it's where the morals of the stories are often that people are too stupid to govern themselves, or that's just the way it is, or look at this guy trying to make the world a better place, isn't he a fucking idiot? You know, like, laughing at caring at stuff, laughing at caring about things, you know, like, that is what I think that's what I really have an issue with what they're doing. Yeah, it's authentic to them, but, like, you're teaching people to laugh at what is serious to them instead of, like, listening to them, and now it's too late. Now it may be too late, you know. They change, yeah, or just like the popular culture of, like, oh, nothing can ever change, this is just the way it is. Like, everyone who communicates on their huge platform, there's nothing you can do, like, contributes towards that, you know. That's why I think it's important, like, on something like this, to say to people, like, you can do something, you have power, we have power in numbers, you know, but we're not getting that from popular culture. A little bit in The Simpsons, where the town does something, you know, sometimes the town does something really dope, and sometimes they get duped into doing something, and sometimes they all join a cult together, you know, like, I don't know. I think it's important to do more than just, like, laughing at something, you know, because you just feed that into the society over and over again, that it's fucking lame to care about shit.
Well, nihilism is a very romantic idea. Like,
what do you mean?
Just the idea of, like, not giving a fuck about anything. Like in Fight Club, where the girl Marla, like, I just read that book for the first time, and he says at the end of the book, the reason that Tyler comes out is because, like, he had wanted this girl that he's seen in his, like, in his testicular cancer survivor group or whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
And, like, he had no idea how he could get her. Like, she was so free. He was so trapped in his life of perfection, of, like, like a good paying job, his perfect apartment, loft apartment with, like, everything that he, like, worked so hard to, like, furnish it with and everything. And he's seen a girl who was just, like, completely nihilistic. Like, she, like, relished in the idea of dying today or dying tomorrow. Like, she doesn't look both ways when she walks across the highway or whatever the fuck, like, like, Tyler comes out because, like, he wanted to be with her or whatever. He wanted her life and her or whatever. And so, like, that's what, like, happens with Tyler. But, like, that's there's, like, that movie is, and that book is so popular because, or part of it, because of that relationship. Like, like, his whole character is based on, typical consumer, like, ideally successful, person who hates his life. Like every time he's on a plane, he fantasizes about it just blowing up or crashing. And, like, he sees somebody who a lot of people would look at as just, like, the scum of the earth. Somebody who goes into a laundromat, steals jeans, and then goes and sells them so that she could buy cigarettes, and, like, steals Meals on Wheels from people that are dead that she's been forging signatures for the past 5. Like, she lives this life of just such freedom. Like, there's so much freedom in nihilism. Like, once you realize that your whole life is meaningless and nothing really matters, like, the next step past that is that, you can choose what you want to do with your life. Even though, like, when nothing matters, you can choose what's going to matter to you,
Yeah, I get that. And it's nicer it's honestly easier to think that you can't do anything than it is to, like, talk to your neighbor and be like, hey, what are we going to do to stop the rents from going up? Or, like, what are we going to do to stop the planet from cooking itself? Right. What are we going to do about this? What are we going to do about that? It's a very short term, like, opiate, like, it's a very short term,
which is why nihilism is that much more attractive, because like, what does it matter anyways?
Right. But, like, we all have to live, all the climate shit's only going to get worse, and we're going to live to see it. It's not, we've said before, like, Chicago is not going to get hit by the climate crisis as hard as the coastal cities are, as hard as Central America. Like, we'll all have, like the pain, like,
backlash in certain ways. Like, there'll probably be more migrating people here.
Yeah.
Like, there's going to be things that happen because of it that will affect the city. It's just not going to be the same effects.
No, as, like, losing your home to a
losing
flood.
Land mass, yeah.
Like, or your crops drying up, But, what we could see is food shortages. And it's going to be like, oh my God, potatoes are $20 right now. Holy shit. But it's, that's going to be coming from something. Like, there is something we could all do if people believe that they could, I mean, part of it's also just a very minimizing story that's been told to people forever, that you just toil and toil and toil, and eventually you'll become someone and be free. And you know what? The time is now, y'all. We've been working long enough. We deserve freedom and liberation of all these structures that keep us down. We deserve to be happy and fulfilled. And why are we working all these jobs that don't need to happen? Let's have a fully automated fucking utopia where, we work a handful of hours a week, and the rest of the time we can be artists or doctors or scientists or whatever the fuck,
Yeah. I'm going, like, in this country, the scientists are the people that, like, discover, like, things that help our everyday life are not really, like who are the people that are, like, God, like, deified in this country? They're actors and like, like pop culture figures or whatever, like, but it's not like somebody who like just figured out how to like take plastic out of the ocean, like the small bits of plastic, like like you hear that and then you're like, oh, who wants to give $100,000 to this guy to like to clean the ocean,
or you're just like, oh, that's like, cool, university,
that's cool, yeah, like it's kind of like a bystander effect too, like, oh well, somebody else is going to donate to that guy or whatever,
well, I mean, we can only donate so much too, like,
but like, why aren't like these scientists rock stars, like, we're like, oh dude, this guy just figured out how to make a car run for like 100 years on like one battery, like a 2 AA batteries or whatever the fuck, like, like, I don't know, interesting stuff. I had a question for you to end on.
Okay.
If you had to pick like a sin, one of the 7 deadly sins that you're most likely to commit in your life, what would it be?
What are the 7 deadly sins again?
There's gluttony, lust, sloth, wrath.
Oh, I think it's definitely
vanity.
I think it's definitely gluttony for me.
Me too. Yeah.
That'll probably gluttony.
For sure.
Yeah.
All right. Sounds good.
Tight. It's Christmas next week. We'll maybe put something out, maybe not. But in the meantime, just like stay woke, enjoy your pagan holiday, or no holiday at all, or another holiday, just
get active in your community.
Yeah, for real. Reach out to people. Get active in your community. Don't be little islands out here.
Talk to people on the bus.
Yeah. Find an issue you care about.
If they're talking to themselves, maybe find somebody else to talk to.
Maybe.
Or maybe reach out to them. Maybe they need
they need help. Yeah. If there's an issue in your community that you really care about, find who's organizing for it. Join up. Knock on some doors, with the clipboard, petitions, put something on a ballot. Right here in Chicago, they're working on democratizing the utility company. That's great. We're talking about rent control in Chicago. Go do that shit. Cool. We'll see you later.
Right. Good shit. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Be sure to drink your Ritz chocolate Ovaltine, or I'll devour every mic in your